All right, we're going to do a 2-minute warning here, so just if you guys want to start gearing up, if you want to get the cameras rolling, so I'll get started, I'll do some introductions, and we'll kind of roll from there. I'm going to ask everybody, if you don't mind, if you can, turn the phone off loud, just so we're not having things echoing through this room and nobody can hear anything, so if you don't mind. Perfect, appreciate it. Start in about 2 minutes. Everybody ready to roll? All right. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this media briefing. We're going to go through a few speakers here, so I'm just going to start off, give you guys a little bit of intro here. We're going to go through a couple of speakers, and then we'll open it up for some questions at the end. We've got probably 10-15 minutes for questions, so we got a little bit of time, but kind of think about what questions you want to ask as we're going through this the next couple of minutes. With that, I just want to say thank you all for being here. This is really important for us getting information out to the public. So I've been working with many of you for the last couple of days here, multiple times. So again, I really appreciate you sticking with us for this long day, and many of you yesterday as well, and getting this information, this really critical information out to the public for us. So really thank you all for being here. With that, I would like to introduce our Regional Director, Dan Bauman.
Good evening, all. Again, like Mike said, thanks for coming. Thanks for sharing the messages that you'll hear tonight. I'll just start with some of the information that's already been shared, but not in this venue. This is part of the Southwest District Incident Management Team. We've been activated here under a unified command, and you've probably already been hearing what unified command is. We all work in cooperation. Lots of state agencies, local departments, Fort McCoy, the federal government, as well as the Department of Natural Resources. And we're here, for those of you at the Black River Falls Service Center for DNR. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources fire crews and local agencies and crews are on the scene of a roughly 3,000 acre fire. wildfire in Monroe County, which at this time is 50% contained. Mike? Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Hansen. I'm with the Fort McCoy Public Affairs Office. I'm here to introduce our tonight's speaker. It's Major General Matthew Baker, M-A-T-T-H-E-W, Baker, B-A-K-E-R. He's the Commanding General of the 88th Readiness Division and the Senior Commander for Fort McCoy. And again, it's M-A-T-T-H-E-W, B-A-K-E-R. Sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank DNR, all the local and state authorities, Wisconsin Army National Guard, everybody coming together to get after this problem set, and it's really appreciated. This doesn't come easy, and we really appreciate the cooperation and partnership because this is what's getting us through this. We would like to extend our sincerest condolences to those who have been displaced, lost property, have otherwise been affected by this incident. The United States Army and Fort McCoy value the long-standing relationships with our local communities and our neighbors and look to continue this bond. Our soldiers and civilians are part of the community, so this is part of them as well as they fight through this. The exact cause of the fire is still unknown at this time. We do know that we were doing prescribed burns. Risk assessments were done. Evaluations were done. We have no further confirmation of how this is going, but we are going to do really in-depth investigation on this and walk it back. But our focus right now is to ensure the safety of personnel, safety of property, and get this contained and put out. This has visibility at the highest levels. The Secretary of the Army is tracking this down to all the people at Fort McCoy. So this is visibility across the board. We are committed to provide the resources we need to help fight this fire and work with our partners. We have on the way, we have 2 more air assets, 2 CH-47s and a UH-60 coming in. They'll be on ground to help assist with the efforts going forward. So again, I appreciate everybody's partnership, cooperation, and we're going to be here to the end to get this done. All right.
All right. So just another quick update. So if you haven't seen on social media recently, as of about an hour and a half ago, we did have an additional 85 structures that became threatened by the fire, and there was an evacuation that occurred. That's from Arcadia Ave to Highway 12 to EW, and EW to E, and then E back to Century Ave. So that has happened. The evacuation center has been moved at this point because of those 85 residences, so we have enough space. So the new evacuation center is the Lunda Center, which is at 405 State Highway 54 here in Black River Falls. So just wanted to share that information with all of you that's happened recently. So that's a new development. So it's that evacuation center will be opening at 7:30 p.m. With that, we are going to open it up to questions. So if everybody would come back up, please. Feel free to let us know if you have a question you'd like answered.
If the fire risk was so high, why were prescribed burns being done?
All right, I'll come in. Prescribed burns were going on all week, I'll get over here. Prescribed burns were going on all week, and then the threat started to rise. And when we started on Monday, we did the South Post, and we did a major burn on the North Post. And then Wednesday, we came upon, there was a minor burn going on at that time. That's why we're that's why we're going to investigate what the cause of this and go into more detail. So, and one of the reasons is that this is the height of the training season. We have over 2,000 soldiers coming into the base, and prescribed burns really set the conditions. And there's going to be a lot of live fire going on, and instead of the ammunition and the tracers starting the impact area and having a very uncontrolled burn, this is a measure that we take to set the conditions so that we have successful training throughout the year and don't have issues like this over.
Do we have an estimate on how long it will take to contain the fire?
I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
Yeah, so at this point, the fire is about 50% contained. That's held relatively steady throughout the day. We've been anywhere between 46 and 50%. The good news is, we were in red flag conditions today, so, high winds, high temperatures, very low relative humidity. So the fact that we're holding it and continuing to gain containment is a really great sign.
Because you've been sitting at that 46 to 50% containment, do you feel like you're having success with the fire at this point?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's always a bit of a moving target. Things change hour to hour. So we've got plenty of resources out there. We've had various things come in throughout the day where you can get a wind shift or you can get something else happening. And so we have a really talented group of people that those inputs come in from the field, from the firefighters, and they say, hey, we're seeing this out there, and we have a whole group of people that get together, and really think that out, and how are we going to adjust that plan for the next hour, for the next 5 hours, for the next 24 hours. And so there's a very strategic planning process as part of this where we really do that both short-term and long-range planning to make sure we have a whole group of people who are confident in the plan we have, and that once we have that plan, we move forward with it and execute it.
Are there more residential areas that could be at risk with this fire?
So at this point, I don't have any information that there's any additional, evacuations pending or any other, structures at risk. So, at this point, I would say hopefully the conditions are getting a little better out there at this point, and as we move into the evening hours here, hopefully we can start gaining some more containments and just keep reducing the risk to the residents in the area.
For the fire in Messina, Juneau County posted on Facebook that it's safe for residents to return home. Can you confirm that that's the Jack Pine fire?
That is the Jack Pine fire, and as of the last hour or two here, those residents have been allowed to return back to their residences.
How many properties or structures have been damaged from this Fort McCoy?
So from the Fort McCoy, I'm aware of 4 structures that were impacted. I know 2 of those were kind of outbuildings. I don't know the details on what the other 2 were, but I have not heard of any of them being residences at this point. So.
Were they on base or?
No, those would have. Well, I guess I can't confirm that for sure, but my understanding was that they were off base.
Do you have any reports of any injuries with this fire yet?
We have not had any reports of any injuries either to the public, firefighters, or anybody else. So it's been going great as far as safety, which is always our number one priority on these incidents, is to make sure everybody's being safe out there. And so, I appreciate all of you who've worked with me over the last couple of days. We've had really good connection on where can we go, where can we not go. So that's been great. Appreciated everybody.
You have a lot of departments at play here, working with Fort McCoy, with all the different fire departments, DNR. Can you talk a little bit about the communication between all of these folks?
Yeah, so that's really one of the biggest reasons why we set up we bring in an incident management team to manage this. So we have multiple sections within this. There are what we call liaison officers. Their entire job is just to make connections with people, with local officials, with all kinds of groups of people. We have, operations people, so they're connecting with all the different fire departments. We have tracking resources all over the place back here. So every firefighter, piece of fire equipment, they always come here first. They check in. We know exactly how many people. We give them an assignment. They go out. We know exactly where they are. When they're done for the day, they come back, they demobilize, and we make sure everybody's safe, and everybody's, doing the job they're assigned to do. So it's a very structured process to make sure that, nothing's falling through the cracks.
If you can talk a little about the process of bringing in so much people late, is it like starting with a small radius, working out? Is it, how do you pick and choose, especially like we were talking earlier, the fire risk is so high across so many areas, not stretching resources of maybe smaller fire departments that have their own areas?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So that's a really important piece of kind of what's going on behind the scenes. We know where all our resources are stationed throughout the state. So in this case, the southern half of the state, has very high fire danger. So resources are being moved down from the northern part of the state, where in some cases, I have people sending me pictures, there's still 1.5 feet of snow on the ground. So, those resources are able to come down here right now. 2 weeks from now, when maybe all that snow is gone and the fire risk is less here as we start greening up farther south, then those resources will shift and we'll send people from the south to the north. So there's constant movement, even within a day. If we were to get another fire over in, let's say, somewhere over in the eastern part of the state, those resources would get adjusted. On a fire like this, if there's not a bunch of other fires, maybe we can bring in a few more resources to work in an evening when we maybe wouldn't otherwise have those resources. So it's a constantly moving target. But again, there's a room full of people who are strategically thinking about this and making sure that there's a backup in every location and there's a backup to the backup should it be needed.
For those families who had to evacuate or displace, they are certainly frustrated with the situation. I guess what would you ever tell them?
Yeah, so we definitely share in their concern, and we definitely are wishing the best for them, and we're gonna do our absolute best to get this fire contained as quickly as possible, and and get them back in their homes. In the meantime, there's going to be we have resources to provide for them. So if they need hotel room, meals, that kind of thing, those are all things that we'll make sure that are provided to them. So that they're not driving around trying to figure out where they should go. So that's one of the really important pieces, again, with all of you sharing the information. We need to make sure they know where an evacuation center is and what resources are actually available to them.
This is a follow-up for Major General Baker. Can you explain a little bit about those safety precautions that are in place for a prescribed burn? Because people were told maybe not to even grill outside because the conditions were so bad. So just how that could be prohibited, but prescribed burns are going on.
Yeah, we have our DES, our Department of Emergency Services, our firefighters, and they do an in-depth risk assessment. And off of that risk assessment, that's what they base their decision on and how that would go forward. And as we look into it, again, the investigation is going to play out and really see where the fire started and what was the impact and what was the role of these prescribed burns in starting that fire and making it move out.
Do you have any more details on what goes into that risk assessment, just like what factors that they look into?
They take in weather conditions, the dryness of the soil. I'm not an expert on it, but they do is a checklist that we do, and we don't go carelessly and just say we're going to do this. There's a lot of thought that goes into that.
How much has this, I guess, impacted day-to-day operations at Fort McCoy? Has it at all, or is it?
So we've had to adjust. Like I said, we have about 2,000 soldiers coming in for the weekend to train. We've had to adjust and move the training down to South Post. We have a no pyro, no live ammo mandate right now. That means that there will be no pyrotechnics anywhere on Fort McCoy for training, for two reasons. One, we don't want to start another fire, and two, our resources are dedicated. Our fire resources are dedicated right now to fighting this fire, and we don't want to start anything else.
Is there any long-term effects from this fire?
I'm going to defer that question, and maybe Dan can help me out, but yeah.
Yeah, so, when you get fire on the landscape, there are actually some landscapes where fire is a good thing. So some of the jack pine and the tree species out there, some of those species actually, their reproduction is based on fire. So it really depends on the intensity of the fire, how long it's burning in a given area. But DNR and in our work with our partners, we have a lot of very skilled people at doing forest management, at doing barrens management, at doing prairie restoration, stuff like that. So while it's not a short process to restore a given area, we're very used to making these plans and restoring these habitats back to what they were before a fire occurred. So, I was going to say before, as part of the other answer, every kind of time we have a fire like this, we do what's called an after-action review. So we'll get everybody together who had anything to do with it. Everybody will give their input. What went well? What didn't go so well? What could be improved for the next time? And all that information is channeled over years and years, and really helps us build up that, what are the risk factors, and kind of what can we do better going forward. So again, we don't just come here, do our role and then take off. There's a lot of work that goes on for potentially years afterwards to really dive into what happened and what we can do do differently the next time if that's necessary.
Once this fire's contained, do you have an estimate of how long the investigation would be till you can give a definite source of the start of the fire?
So in the Department of Defense, we do what we call 15-6 investigations, where somebody's assigned, and the investigation will be very in depth. It'll be very lengthy. There will be interview processes, the analysis. They'll go with experts coming on site to do the analysis, and I don't have a definitive timeline of when that will be done. But again, this is at the highest levels, and it's not going to be just brushed away. We are going to do that, and then through FOIA requests, we can get you that information.
We got time for 2 more questions. So if anybody has a couple.
Do we have an estimate on how many first responders were helping out with these fires the past 2 days?
Because it keeps growing.
Yeah, so I don't have an exact number. We've had numerous fire departments. There's constantly resources coming and going. So that's a number I can make sure gets in our next social media or kind of update for you. It is something that we keep track of. I don't have the number off the top of my head.
Out of the 3,000 acres, about how many of that is on base?
The vast majority is on base. So last I heard, about 70 acres was off base. So the vast majority of it is on base. One more question from anybody?
Quick question. So there was a fire weather watch issued on Tuesday. So with that being said, if you have a fire weather watch in effect, does that stop all prescribed burn operations, or do you guys have your own criteria, or how does that work?
Yeah, we fall under different mandates, being a federal installation. So there are different regulations that apply to federal installation versus state land.
All right, well, again, I want to thank you all for being here. If there's any follow-up questions, I will hang out for a few minutes. If you want to follow up with me, I'll hang out over here. Other than that, again, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate your patience today, and look forward to continue working with y'all.